Batman versus Robin issue 2. Mark Waid writing with Mohammed Asrar on the
Mahmoud Asrar.
Mahmoud Asrar, sorry. For the art. So
okay, that's right.
Yeah, so this is continuing, Alfred seemingly back with Batman. We get more of what Mother Soul's up to with Robin and all this shenanigans. So
this book is weird, but in a great way.
Mm-hmm.
Because reading this, because I just refreshed because I read it last week. Trying to remember what I read in this one was a tough go. And then I got to the pages where they're in the House of Secrets or the House of Mystery. I can't remember which one.
Secrets.
And it just House of Secrets. It gets so weird with these characters showing up and like the Skull Dude. Yeah, man, this is a lot of fun. You can tell that Mark Waid's having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, he's pulling also some weird shit out. These characters going to Atlantis to like steal shit early on. These very magic-based characters. Obviously, there's a couple of more recognizable ones that show up when they go back, like Clary and whatever. But this is all Mother Soul's doing, and Neza's actually using who's this young character he's using?
It's Black Alice.
Black Alice, yeah. He's using her to like basically so two of the characters have stolen Ragman's quilt, right? And they're basically sucking the magic out of magical items and putting it into Dr. Fate's helmet to like supercharge it. So they're making this ultimate Dr. Fate helmet. Obviously they're clearly the reason why magic is completely wacky right now. That's something that was brought up last issue. So it's building up more of this stuff, and there's some interesting tidbits. Felix Faust is having weird moments. Batman kind of has to grab him and stop him from doing anything, and that's when House of Secrets shows up, and Batman and Alfred go in, and just a whole variety of wacky stuff in there where Batman gets to see some of the stuff that happened. It's wonderful how much this is tying into the Robin book by Williamson, and he sees the tournament kind of be fight playing out in front of him and stuff like that. There's some interesting details in here, unless I'm mixing up my books, but I don't think I am, where we get kind of an origin for Lazarus resin. It seems to come, so it ties into the origin of Neza from World's Finest, which is so the father who was determined to find something to resurrect his son. That is what kind of became the first version of Lazarus resin, and Lazarus pits all kind of come from that source, which is very interesting because it's this very biblical story, and kind of
right, which then inherently ties it to ties Roz as the demon, right, the head of the demon, to the devil Nazah, in his story, which I think is really cool. I like when they overlay the mythologies in DC on each other like that, especially when they fit so perfectly.
So we have this very interesting thing where they've kind of like tied them together, and that's why Mother Soul's like working with Neza, because that actually that is kind of the demon itself, if you will. If you go back far enough, that's where it comes from. So super interesting. Lot of wackiness with them in these various scenarios and run into various characters throughout. But like Damien, it turns out when we see more of this play out, it turns out this all started because Damien, when he was exploring Lazarus Island after the events of his series, he basically inadvertently opened the tomb that had Neza in it. He opened it without knowing what was inside, released Neza. Obviously, Neza took control of him, and that's why Damien's the way he is in this book. And that ties into what we know about Neza, is that he can control people. We saw him control Superman even, so it's not like Damien's like some weakling for not doing this. But it turns out Damien's actually the one behind like Batman seeing all this stuff, like he's kind of puppeteering, like seeing all this stuff. And like it just kind of escalates. It's a really trippy kind of issue because there's a lot of like weird stuff to go through, but there's a lot of really fascinating little like reveals that happen throughout, like the Lazarus resin stuff, like the reveal of how Damien opened the tomb, and Batman even seeing like Damien fight alongside his new friends. Big stuff towards the end though is that Mother Soul gives Damien his Batman outfit because he's ascending to a new So
yeah,
obviously it's smaller because he's still a kid, but it's the big collar kind of thing.
From Batman 666 by Morrison. Yeah.
And then he says, "What's a Batman without Robin?" So it looks like Neza might have taken control of Dick, Tim, Steph, and Jason.
Which, that's Dick Grayson in World's Finest. So
True.
That ties him back to the Devil, Neza. But what got me here is the last page.
Well,
right?
of course, yeah.
Well, the fact that they get out of the burning House of Secrets, right? Which the House of Secrets is this weird, they're going through and they're falling through reality, and they're running into these different characters of Cain and Abel and Cynthia and all, all of this stuff. And they finally get out because they find out that, Damien's the one that's puppeteering everything. And that, Bruce is happy to have Alfred on his side because he can always, he always has an eye on Bruce. And just, man, Asrar killed this page right here. Just the ominous, Alfred walking away from the burning House of Secrets and saying, "That's what I'm here for," in shadow. But then his shadow on the ground looks like a demon itself.
Also the Devil Neza, I think.
Neza has those big ass horns like that too? He does, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
He does, yeah. So
it's so funny because last issue we're so skeptical, but there's that one moment near the end that kind of convinced us, oh, maybe it really is Alfred. And then this issue just has to hit us with this at the end. It's like, no, it's not Alfred. This is an imposter.
Well, how do we know that it isn't the real Alfred? But he now going through the house.
Oh, now Nez has got control of him. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, you could be right.
I feel like Mark Waid's good at throwing us for loops for certain things like that.
I still think it's not really him now, but I can totally buy that possibility that it is really Alfred, but now he's under control of Neza. Okay.
Because there's a lot that goes on in that house that Damien puppeteered. Although it would be up to Damien to bring Alfred back in the eyes of Bruce just to take him away again. Although what would that do to Damien? Because as we saw in Williamson's, that was, he wanted to bring him back via Lazarus.
Maybe Alfred coming back is actually to do with Damien in the sense that let's assume it's the real Alfred for a second, which I'm not convinced it is anymore, but let's say it is. What if the reason why Alfred came back is because when Damien became connected to all this shit, we know that Damien internally has been longing for Alfred to come back and wanted to bring Alfred back. What if it just kind of like subconsciously or like just by default did it once he was connected to all this, that it brought Alfred back because deep down that's what Damien has really wanted. So it's not something he did intentionally, but it's kind of this like side effect of everything going on. Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought.
Be. Well, that's why I want to believe it is the real Alfred, because I feel like it would be cheap for it to not be.
I think it would be cheap at this point.
Yeah.
If anything, it's the more likely outcome that it's not the real Alfred. Which is why I was impressed by the end of the first issue that he was able to convince me that it might be really him.
Right.
So, I think that's credit where credit's due, which will just make it hurt when it's not, effectively, which is nice.
Right. Give him hope just to take it away.
Which is what I felt at the end of this issue. I felt like this was like, oh no, it's not really him. He's just a monster in disguise. So
yeah. So really, really, really solid issue now that I remember, because it's been a week.
Yeah.
Over a week since I read it, but yeah.
That was a good time. What are you rating it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I would concur with that.